Today's sync sound is pills in a bottle. In 3, 2, 1.
What, do you only have like one pill in there?
I think there might be two. On the other hand, it sounds like you have a lot of medication there.
I have a bunch.
Right, welcome to That Just Might Work, the podcast about everyday items. Jesse, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I've got all my pills laid out on the desk. I'm ready to go.
I was going to ask you what type of pills, but I feel like maybe we shouldn't share our medications.
I actually, you know what? Can I share this one? I'm not going to be able to say this.
Go ahead.
But it's like ondansetron, and it is for nausea. And the only reason I bring it up is because you had mentioned earlier today you had a slight issue with that.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that, huh? Yeah. I had, see, this is the sort of problem you wouldn't expect like a 30-year-old man to have. But I had been painting as a part of a fundraising event. And, when you're painting, you need to rinse the paintbrush off in a cup of water. You might see where this is going. I was using blue paint, and they were also serving in similar paper cups blue Gatorade. So before we started recording this episode today, I may have ingested about a half a cup of paint water.
Yeah. I just kind of had to make sure everyone knew that happened.
Yeah, thank you. You know what's funny though is I had it was a half a cup. I'm not joking. I had a half a cup of paint water. So I swallowed a full gulp, and then I swallowed the second gulp, and then I was like, this doesn't taste like Gatorade. That's how long it took my brain to recognize.
It was somehow close enough, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know if that's like I'm bashing Gatorade or I'm saying paint water's not that bad. I'm not sure.
Yeah, hard to say.
But anyway, acrylic paint might be slightly toxic. I did have slight nausea after the fact. But I'm feeling good now. I have ibuprofen, by the way, for my pills.
Okay, good.
With that, before we announce today's topic, this is going to be, and of course, you already know because it's the title of the episode, but I think we've been looking forward to this episode since we started this podcast.
Yeah, we didn't want to do it right away. I'm glad we saved it.
Yeah, because we knew it was going to be a good one. We wanted to do it justice, and with that, we brought on a special guest, a longtime friend of Jesse's, longtime listener of the podcast. He's an independent video game designer at Gestra Games, also a Super Smash Brothers extraordinaire. Welcome to the podcast, Rameez Qurashi.
I mean, I wouldn't stay extraordinaire, but
I thought I'd be nice and give it to you.
So what type of medication are you taking?
I just brought over some ibuprofens, actually.
Oh, wow. Nice.
You guys beat me
Pill
out.
Brothers. So Rameez, you've been listening to the podcast for a little while?
Yeah. I've been listening since the beginning. I'm pretty sure I have heard every single episode. Actually, I know which one I haven't listened to yet. It's where you guys had the first guest. I haven't listened to that one yet. Because I was like too afraid of like, oh my God, what if the chemistry is like
all wrong? So you wanted to feel it out yourself first,
yeah.
Be a guest to see how bad it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that was the episode with Mike McKay. I think we found that we do like having guests on. We just maybe don't have enough friends to have one for every episode.
Well, I'd be down to come back.
All right. Well, let's see how you do first.
Yeah. Feel me out for sure. Give me a trial.
Yeah. This feeling out thing, it goes in both directions. So.
Yeah, this is the evaluation episode.
Yeah, I don't think you know this, Jason. You gave me a shout out already on the last episode. You were talking about somebody who tagged you on some Atlantic article about like how neck pillows are terrible or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was you.
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, okay.
So really, an avid participant.
Yeah. You're already been a part of the podcast. So let's get to it. Today's episode is on the everyday item of the toilet.
Oh, God, that was nice and good.
Wow. Just wait it out. It's like 15 seconds.
I was about to say, that is a much longer audio clip than I think I wanted it to be.
If you think about it, actually cut it short. If you think about it, a toilet flush is pretty long.
Yeah.
I guess that's...
They're pretty
So-
wasteful, too, people say, right? It's like a couple gallons of water.
Oh, yeah, like 2 to 3 gallons, I think, on average. So.
In Japan, you guys might talk about this, but they have those things where like you wash your hands in the sink, and then that like wastewater from you washing your hands goes in the toilet, and you do your business in there.
That's smart.
Yes,
Saves a lot of water.
Yeah.
I did read a little bit about that. So let's start with the definition of the toilet for anyone unfamiliar. This is from Wikipedia. A toilet is a piece of hardware used for the collection or disposal of human urine and feces. In other words, toilets are sanitation facilities at the user interface that allow for safe and convenient urination and defecation. We all in agreement with that?
Makes sense. Yeah.
I have no qualms with that.
Before we go any further, I feel like there's going to be a lot of poop talk on this episode, right?
Yeah.
I was hoping we were all on board with that. Yeah.
There's going to be a balance, I think, between sounding scientific and really doing the topic of the toilet justice and just shit talk. And I don't know where it's going to lie, but I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, we're gonna find out, what terminology we like to use and everything like that.
Yeah. All right. So some distinctions for different types of toilets. Major distinctions can be made between those that use water and those that don't use water. You've got your flush toilets. You've got your dry toilets. Flush toilets generally connected to sewer systems in urban areas, connected to septic tanks in less built-up areas. And in this case, water acts as an odor seal for sewer gas. Dry toilets connected to a pit, removable container, composting chamber, or other storage and treatment device, such as...
Presumably smell terrible.
Yeah, generally smell much worse.
Yeah.
No, that's like an outhouse. You can also make distinctions between the posture with which you use the toilet, sitting posture or squatting posture, as you may find in many Asian countries. The squatting toilet is actually the natural position for defecation.
Oh yeah. I actually I own a squatty potty. Actually,
We're going to talk about the squatty potty.
Yeah. I can give you a first-hand user review. You guys have squatty potties?
I do. I actually do.
Nice.
This is not a toilet training device for children.
Well, it doubles as that, I think.
It actually could. Yeah.
I was going to ask Rameez, have you traveled abroad and used one of these like full squatting toilets?
Bro, I've got so many like foreign toilet stories.
All right.
Great.
I was going to say, let's let Jason finish. His
Go ahead.
intro.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then you've got distinctions of household and public toilets, urinals, portable toilets. I'm sure we're all familiar with them. Toilets on airplanes. Those are actually vacuum toilets. We're very familiar with vacuum technology on this show.
Right.
They work on the premise of creating a vacuum to suck in your poop. Then you've...
Okay.
Then you've got high-tech toilets. I'm just going to leave it at that because I'm sure Jesse's going to touch upon that later in the show. Then you've got something known as the flying toilet. This is not a real toilet, so to speak. I just thought it was interesting. I read about this on Wikipedia. In some urban slums, the flying toilet will be implemented where a plastic shopping bag is used as a container for excrement and then simply discarded. They're called flying toilets because, quote, when you have filled them, you can throw them as far away as you can.
They should get those little like Amazon drones to like pick up the
Just
poop
take
and
it
take
away.
it to like a
There you go. There's an idea. And globally, I want to touch upon this. Toilets are kind of a global issue.
Oh,
the
yeah.
lack of toilets.
I would say everyone uses them.
and it's crazy too because there's so many people who have so many completely different ways of using them. I mean, I can tell you a lot of stories about even my own childhood and how different my toilet was than you guys.
Right, it's like
I looked
Rameez does handstands on him. Like, everyone's doing something different.
I can only think of so many different ways to use mine. I can't wait to learn more. But globally, nearly 1 billion people have no access to a toilet at all and are forced to do what's known as open defecation. This leads to the spread of disease and pollution of groundwater. The UN, actually, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is a collection of 17 global goals set by the UN, lists number 6 as adequate and equitable sanitation and hygiene for all and to end open defecation by the year 2030. Though I think it probably should have been number 2 on the list.
Oh, well played.
Because you care that much about like toilet health.
Yes. Yeah, that's my number 2 priority. Sorry if that wasn't clear. So that's the definition and the breakdown of some different types of toilets. Any questions so far?
No, I think that's good.
Pretty straightforward.
Jumping into the history, and we're going to break this down into a couple of areas, starting with ancient history. Always like to ask Jesse, when do you think we saw some of the earliest forms of toilets? We're talking not open defecation, but any sort of, like poop catching device.
I would say closed defecation.
Yeah, contained.
I would say Jesus was probably fond of the closed defecation, so it had to be before him. I think Egyptians might have been smart about it. Did they create plumbing, or was that the Romans? I don't know.
I think that was the. I'm not allowed to help, am I? Or
no, you can help. You can help him out here.
Yeah,
he needs the help.
I think Romans did invent that. If that helps you at all, placing your.
It doesn't, but
Jesse always has like historical references for points in time, but he doesn't know at what point in time those references happened.
I'm just like floating in this void of facts that have no references. Okay, I'll say this is. I'm going to go pretty far back and say like 6400 BC.
All right, you're actually a little too early on that one.
Oh,
we're talking about like 3000 BC, give or take 1,000 years in either direction.
Sounds like they don't have really much of a good grasp on when it happened.
No, because, well, it's hard to define because there were a lot of different early forms of like sewers, if you can call it that technology. You guys mentioned it with the Romans. During the 3rd millennium BC, toilets and early form sewers were invented throughout the world. I'm not sure how to say this. Mohenjo-Daro? Does that sound familiar to either of you guys?
Not as a place.
Yeah, is that a person or a place?
To be honest, no, it's a place. Circa 2800 BC is cited as having some of the most advanced early systems with toilets that were built into outer walls of homes. These were Western style, although primitive, with vertical chutes wherein waste was disposed into cesspits or street drains.
Oh, that sounds like not far off from what we have, really.
Yeah, so that's where we often credit it to. It's like 2800, 3000 BC, give or take. And I should mention, in early times, the toilets were only used by, according to Wikipedia, the affluent classes, or
of course,
not the vulgar people. They had to, openly defecate.
Right.
The people of Harappan civilization in Pakistan, actually, and northwestern India had primitive water cleaning toilets that used flowing water in each house that were linked with drains covered with burnt clay bricks. This flowing water removed the human waste, another rudimentary form of sewer systems. We're jumping to recent history for a moment. 2012, archaeologists found what is believed to be Southeast Asia's earliest latrine during the excavation of a Neolithic village in southern Vietnam. A toilet dating back to 1500 BC yielded important clues about early Southeast Asia society when more than 30 coprolites. Do you guys want to take a guess at what that is?
A coprolite?
Yeah, they found 30 coprolites.
Oh, I know this one. I think it's fossilized dung.
Yeah, it is.
Nice.
Nice.
They found some fossilized feces containing fish, shattered animal bones, and that provided information on the diet of humans and dogs.
Can we talk about how sad it must be? Like if
Shattered animal bones?
you go to college. No, you go to college and you become an archaeologist and you're excited to look for dinosaurs. You just keep finding like fossilized feces. Like I guess I'm sure it's exciting, but like, man, not what I would want to hunt for.
No, and like it'd be more exciting if it was like dinosaur poop, but like not like this is just people poop.
Yeah.
In Roman civilization, here we go. The Romans, their toilets used flowing water, were sometimes part of a public bath house. The Roman toilets were probably elevated to raise them above open sewers, which were periodically flushed with flowing water, that is, as opposed to being elevated for sitting purposes. They were just, so that they weren't sitting in the flowing water. One last interesting historical toilet. During the Han Dynasty in China 2,000 years ago, they had pig toilets. Pig toilets were chutes where it went into a pigsty and into ponds for consumption by animals.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's efficient. No, they're not wasting anything now.
So that brings us to post-classical history. You guys are you still following along here?
Yeah, I'm excited about post-classical toilets.
Yeah. Is that when they put on it or?
Yeah, they were known as garter robes. In post-classical times, toilets used most commonly found in upper-class dwellings. Essentially, they were need glasses, flat pieces of wood or stone spanning from one wall to the other, with one or more holes to sit on. I saw this a lot looking at pictures of early toilets. Like, there would just be several holes, like Roman toilets as well, several holes next to each other, so you could just be like sitting next to your buddy and pooping into the
when
stream.
Exactly was the bathroom stall invented? I feel like that's the real question.
Yeah, that's a good question. At what point did we start to become embarrassed by it?
I don't know.
Right? So there were chutes above pipes that discharged outside of the castle or manor house in these garter robes. They would be placed in areas away from bedrooms to shun the smell. And also, they would put them
shun the smell.
They would put them near kitchens or fireplaces to keep the enclosure warm. The other main way of handling toilet needs was the chamber pot. That was a receptacle, usually of ceramic or metal materials, into which one could excrete waste. This method was used for hundreds of years. There were different shapes, sizes, decorative variations throughout the centuries. I laughed when I read this because I just thought, oh, Hannah would have liked having a chamber pot.
A nice bedazzled chamber pot. Yeah.
She could have personalized it to her preferences.
Yeah.
So we jump ahead to modern history, and a little warning: this part is kind of gross, I feel. By the 16th century, cesspits and cesspools were increasingly dug into the ground near houses in Europe as a means of collecting waste. Still rudimentary sewer systems here. As urban populations grew, street gutters became blocked with the large volume of human poop. Rain was no longer sufficient to wash away waste from the gutters, and a pipe connected the latrine to the cesspool. Sometimes a small amount of water washed the waste through. The cesspools were normally cleaned by tradesmen who would pump out the liquid waste, then shoveled out the solid waste and collected it during the night.
Not a great job.
I'm just imagining like toilet technology has kind of been like up and down,
Yeah. It's kind of like we had the right idea and then we got the wrong idea again. This solid waste, euphemistically known as, and I like this, night soil, was sold as fertilizer for agricultural production.
Ooh.
I'd like to see the term night soil come back.
I think that's a death metal band.
I have to go lay some night soil.
I need to tend to the garden. The night soil is has been disturbed. In the early 19th century, public officials and public hygiene experts studied and debated sanitation for several decades. The construction of an underground network of pipes, there we go, right? To carry away solid and liquid waste only begun in the mid-19th century, gradually replacing the cesspool system. You would think just by the name cesspool, they would have been like, I feel like there's got to be a better way to do this.
It doesn't seem like there's anything we can do. We just got to live with the cesspool.
Actually, cesspool is still in use in some parts of Paris into the 20th century. And even London, at that time, the world's largest city, did not require indoor toilets in its building codes until after the First World War. Little anecdote to make here. Before the introduction of indoor toilets, it was common to use the aforementioned chamber pot. That would be, you would keep it at your bedside. You would use it at night and then dispose of its contents in the morning. And the practice of emptying one's own chamber pot was known as slopping out.
More great terminology.
I just want to make sure we have all the euphemisms and fun ways to refer to this sort of thing. Right? If we're going to take anything useful out of this history. The slopping out actually continued in British prisons as recently as 2014 and was still in use in 85 cells in the Republic of Ireland in July of 2017.
Wow.
Yeah. So as you notice, we got into piping systems, modern-day sewage systems. The water closet, with its origins in Tudor times, started to assume its modern form with an overhead cistern, S-bends. That's the S curve in the piping of your toilet. Soil pipes and valves around 1770. This was the work of Alexander Cumming and Joseph Brahma. They started to make their way inside homes around 1850, and that's where I'm going to stop with the history of the toilet, because that basically resembles the toilet that we use today.
Now I'm going to slop out over here.
I don't think you're using that appropriately.
I'm trying to reappropriate it.
As I was reading that, I was just imagining like your face is just grimacing. Just.
It's sloshing around in there. It's just, oh man, I can't believe we used to live in that kind of way.
So I do have a couple of other euphemisms I'll just hit on really quick. Crapper. A lot of people know this about the history of the toilet. A coarse name for the toilet gained currency from the work of Thomas Crapper, who popularized flush toilets in England. He was a real guy. The jacks is Irish slang for the toilet. I've never heard that before. Have you?
Never heard that.
No.
Perhaps derives from jocks and jakes, an Old English term. And then the loo. I'm sure you guys have heard that before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The etymology of loo is obscure. Loo may have derived from a corruption of the French leu, for water. I'm probably saying that wrong. And other proposed etymologies include a supposed tendency to place toilets in room 100 in English hotels. So 100 hence resembles the word loo. Kind of interesting.
Oh, there's just one poop room in a hotel?
Yeah.
Now you go to a Holiday Inn.
Take your own slop over there, or do they have like their own toilet in
I was
there?
going to say, now you go to the Holiday Inn and they're all poop rooms.
That's right. That's right. So that's everything I have for the history of the toilet. It was really a riveting Saturday morning that I learned all this.
Yeah, there's a lot of information there.
Yeah. So, with that, let's take a quick break from the toilet. I'm sure that we all need it. It sounded like I was going to say, let's all take a quick toilet break.
Just everyone leave your microphones and come back in 5 minutes.
And let's play our favorite game, or one of our favorite games. What's That Sound? This is the game where I have recorded some sounds from an everyday item within my home, and I've broken them out into 3 clues, and it's going to be Jesse versus Rameez in the instance of this round of What's That Sound. Are you guys ready?
Ready.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to play them in... I'm not going to say order of difficulty necessarily. I'm just going to play them in order of sequence that they happen when you're using this device. Here is clip number 1 if you'd like to take a guess as to what it is.
Maracas?
It's like, I don't know what happens in Rameez's house that's an everyday item, but sounds like a party. I don't know. It sounded like rice to me. So does rice count?
All right, so we've got maracas and rice. Interestingly, I think some maracas have rice in them.
Oh, nice.
We're on the same page, bro.
Yeah.
So, no.
The same wrong page, though.
Yeah, not rice nor maracas. Clue number 2. Here it is.
Right, so you have a rain stick in your apartment? like, what are you doing?
Is it like coffee? Like grinding and pour? I don't know a lot about coffee.
Can we hear sound 2 again?
Sound 2, sure.
It's like staticky.
Is there fire involved? Like
I don't know how much help I want to give you guys. Let's get to clue 3, and if you still can't guess it, I'll try to help you out a little bit. Here we go.
Oh,
is this the sound of you like fumbling this item?
yeah.
You just keep dropping it.
It's, it's interesting that you use your printer by hitting it with a rain stick. That's not how that's not how I use mine. But
all right, it's not a rain stick. I'll give you this. You're on the right track when you said static. That could be misconstrued for what is actually sizzling. There's a heating element here. Take a listen to clue number 1 again.
like a pat of butter on a cast iron skillet.
Close, very close.
Play it again. Play it again.
Here's clip number 2. This is the item being placed into the item.
You're searing meat.
No, close.
Searing veg.
All right, I'm going to break it down. We've got spraying and a non-stick spray onto the item. Then we've got placing something into the item for cooking. And then we've got removing the item for consumption. And final clue, this is a breakfast device.
The thing that goes in the thing, or
it's a thing for cooking a breakfast item.
Oh, is it one of those like 3-in-1? You cook like an English muffin in the thing.
I know it. Waffle iron.
That is a waffle iron.
Oh, I've never used one of those. All right, that explains that. All right.
Oh, geez, that was a lot tougher than I thought it would be.
It's a hard one to recognize by sound alone, I will say.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't make too many sounds.
Right, waffles, not notoriously loud.
No. All right, so with that, Jesse, you took the point there, right? So that makes the score 3-2.
Yeah, I'm working my way back.
Versus Jesse. Yeah, you'll have a chance at tying it up next week. Let's talk about the toilet again here. This is the part of the episode where we're going to roundtable discussion. Why does it suck? What do you guys hate about the modern toilet?
Let's hear from Rameez.
Okay, I have a couple of complaints. Well, first of all, I think that I think people kind of are more up on toilets abroad and here. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot more people are a lot more willing to get a little innovative with their toilet. And one thing that people do abroad that I kind of like personally is introducing water into the mix. You know what I mean? It just feels a little so. I mean, there's a whole history here, basically, in much of India and the Muslim world, people use water to clean themselves, and depending on how broke you are, I mean, it's like a necessity thing, right? In some places, right, because you don't have paper readily available as easy as water, for instance. But people bring that stuff over here, and then we grew up and. I know a lot of people that were my age. We would grow up in the same community, and we'd be we'd be at college or whatever, trying to hide the little water cans we used to wash ourselves from white people, so we didn't have to explain, what we were doing there.
Yeah, Can you explain what you're?
I am feeling a little lost.
You tried to hide yourself
with what you're saying here.
Okay, yeah. So basically, like, there's a lot of people who have some kind of like container full of water, and then like basically when you finish, you pour the water over yourself to like clean yourself out basically. And listen, we're talking about toilets. It's gonna get a little
no, go for it.
But and then
hit it home.
well, and then there's this whole thing of like hiding your water thing that you use. You don't want to have this conversation that I'm having.
Is this like a spray bottle?
So it depends. A lot of times it's like a watering can for like a plant.
Oh, okay.
And I knew people who would say like, "Oh yeah, I just told them it's for the plant in my bathroom, or whatever." But there's
was
also...
that actually the original usage for the neti pot?
Yes. I was gonna get into bidets at some point. Another thing that like people are a lot more like willing to use abroad than in the U.S. It depends. I'm going all over the. Sorry, but anyway.
Well, I was going to say, to clarify, it sounds like one of the things you dislike about our like American Western culture toilet society is like the paper only.
Yeah, paper only. I wish I would like a little water in the mix.
Sure.
Yeah, there are homes that have bidets in the U.S. I haven't really stumbled upon many of them. I've never used one. I don't know.
Are you walking into homes? Like, looking
and I did read something interesting in terms of like religious practices and toilets. I don't even know what culture, but they referred to the fact that you were supposed to clean yourself with your left hand.
Yeah, when you're pouring the water over yourself, you're using your left hand to like guide the water to where it needs to go.
Sure, and that's why the left hand is seen as like a kind of like a dirty hand. Like,
yeah, this was pre-soap. So pre-soap is.
Oh man.
Now I don't think it matters too much. You just soap up, you wash off, you're good to go. But I think maybe that wasn't something people could always take for granted. Even now in Japan, in like certain public restrooms or whatever, I did. This was like the worst toilet experience I ever had. Is that like they had like a
please share.
Yeah, it was like a squatty. First of all, it was like a squat thing, like real full on. Like you put your butt like all the way down. You're doing a full squat. And you're doing it that way. That's the only time I had to do it, because in like the airports and hotels and like everywhere you want to go, basically they have like the Japanese like super toilets. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
yep.
Everything's on there, latest technology. But in some places, like this was just like a public park. They had like just your full on like squat toilet, and they didn't have like soap. I guess people like brought in their own soap. Like they had running water to wash your hands, but there was no soap, and that really I didn't feel great about that, especially just uncomfortably dealing with like an actual like squatty toilet for the first time.
Sure. Yeah, I think I'd be pretty lost.
Yes, I don't know. I've never encountered a in walking into American homes or elsewhere a squat toilet. But when I see pictures of them, I feel like there's more opportunity for mishaps and messes to occur. Am I misunderstood in how these things work, or does that seem like I guess we're off balance a little bit?
Have you ever tried to pour a watering can on your own ass? Because I'm not so sure.
Well, actually, with that, the surface tension really, helps a lot.
That helps out. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so are there other, let's say, non-water related issues that you take with the modern toilet?
Well, I will say this: in Italy, I was in Venice for a week, and the hotel we were at, they had like a bidet, but it was like separate. So it was like a separate fixture. So when you finished like, doing your business on the toilet, then you have to like awkwardly like waddle over to the, you got to combine the bidet and the toilet. It's got to be one thing.
It does seem like it's sort of impractical to have them as separate, separate items.
Yeah, the movement doesn't seem great.
Yeah.
Especially for the floor in between the two.
Right. So I'll say I have a short list here of things I dislike.
Okay.
I think that they are
first up, the watering can.
Yeah,
It's really
top of my
awkward to
list.
use.
The watering can I use. No, they're uncomfortable. I think the ones we use. It's just like a hard plastic or ceramic seat.
Oh, it's always cold too.
Yeah, cold. I find them boring. They lack any sort of entertainment. I think they can be hard to keep clean. The fact that you have to clean your toilet however often seems like something we could resolve.
And you got to bust out like heavy tools to clean it out too, not just like you wipe it down.
Right, depending on your eating habits. You might need to clean it more regularly. I don't know. And I also said lacks any sort of feedback, like I would like a toilet to do some sort of analysis and tell me something.
You want to be judged even more for your bathroom habits?
Yeah. Sure, why not? Just like eat some fiber, you idiot.
I was waiting for it. I was like, how is the toilet going to be insulting to Jesse? I know it's going to find a way. I'll just add that, I said cleaning them just sucks. I feel like you shouldn't have to do that. Also, they clog. That seems like a design flaw. Like just the very existence of the plunger. It's like there's something wrong with the toilet.
Oh, bro, have you ever had to like go past the plunger? You know what I mean? You got to. I actually own a toilet snake. I've had to use it before, multiple times.
That's next level when you have to get the toilet snake out.
Yeah, I have had a toilet snake incident.
Yeah.
I said they're generally not very comfortable. I know that they're kind of shaped, with like the human butt in mind, but they're not comfortable. I know that there are padded seats, but that's disgusting. Let's be honest. Like, I want to keep it clean.
Yeah.
And I also said that there's no smart integration in mainstream toilets. I know that in other countries there are some really smart toilets. So yeah, I think you guys kind of hit on all of my other points there. So anyone have anything that they'd like to add on why the toilet sucks before we move on?
I think we nailed it.
Okay. Jesse, what did you find in your research for new age innovative toilets?
Yeah, a couple things we already touched on. The first thing I wanted to talk about is the squatty potty, because I think they're someone who kind of popularized the toilet accessory. I have one. I know Rameez has said he has one.
Yep.
What the fuck is a squatty potty? I've never heard of this.
All right, well, let me advertise it then. I hope they pay us retroactively.
I know.
It's just like a little stool, basically, no pun intended, that sits in front of the seat, and you rest your feet up on it. It elevates your feet and your knees, and it actually puts you in like the squatting position that you would be in for like a traditional squatting toilet. Now,
Gotcha.
That is supposed to be a healthier pooping posture. And
I know in their literature they talk about the anorectal angle a lot.
Yes, I have here from Dr. Ashkan Farhadi, the squatty potty. That wasn't supposed to be funny, but I'm assuming I butchered his name, and Rameez is like, "Wow."
No, just that. Oh, never.
Okay. He is a gastroenterologist at Orange Coast Memorial Medical Center, and he said the squatty potty does increase the rectal anal angle from 100 degrees to 120 degrees. When we increase the angle, the rectum opens up. When we want to have a bowel movement, we open the angle. So he seemed pretty on board with the usage of this.
Now, can I just say something that I've seen in my personal experience with squatty potty? I guess it's really hard for me to like notice the difference. I guess. I mean, I use it, and it's all good or whatever. But do
you take notes like each time?
Well, I'll just say whenever I have to go to like other people's houses or whatever, I don't feel like so much more uncomfortable, or my anal rectal angle, seems fine. I'm not too worried about it.
You got your protractor, and you're like, that'll do. 110, 115, I'll take it. All right. So
wait, do we want to go smaller on the angle or larger? I thought you want to go smaller.
No, you want to go larger. I honestly
wouldn't that would be reclining though?
No, it's like the. I think you can kind of think about it as the angle. I don't know. It's hard, right? It's like you're talking about the interior angle or the exterior angle. We'll send you the video. I'll send you a free one. I'll send you a Squatty Potty.
and Jesse, might I add that I would like to get compensated by Squatty Potty for this, just for all the times I've had to like awkwardly explain what the fuck this stool right next to my toilet is.
Of course, yeah. I mean, you're already
come with instructions, like printed right on the face of it. Because if having never heard of this before, if I went into someone's home and they had a stool in front of the toilet and they didn't have any children,
you'd be confused.
I'd be like, what are they? Right. What are they doing?
So that's the Squatty Potty. Moving on, this is a Kickstarter now. Wipe gel. It's kind of as gross as it sounds. It might solve some of your issues, Rameez, in that the idea is to kind of create a more of like a moist. I don't think moist towelette is the word I want to use. 'Cause now I'm picturing like the things you get when you eat ribs at a restaurant. But like, it's basically a gel that you put on the toilet paper, and it's supposed to just do a better job of cleaning. Okay. They start out their podcast, their Kickstarter video by saying, "If you,
wait, do they have a podcast? Because that would be a
better
riveting listen."
Podcast.
Yeah, but they start out by saying, "If by accident you get some poop on your hand, you wouldn't wipe it off with dry toilet paper and carry on." And that there's some truth to that.
I will say though, I don't know if anybody's like gotten sick from like I mean the whole thing is trying to prevent disease, right? And I think water versus paper or whatever, there's like a comfort factor, but I don't really think it changes like the sanitation aspect, right? I mean, I think nobody's getting sick, everyone's like being nice and healthy.
I just sent a picture from their Kickstarter video to Jason and Rameez. It's just a little animation of a character with a lot of poop on their hand.
Yeah, that's not
and
not
on
a
your
little
palm
poop.
too somehow. Like, why were they wiping like palm first?
Right. Well, on what Rameez was just saying, I do think there's a sanitation concern, but I kind of get what you were saying. Like, as civilized adults, poop on hand, poop not on hand, whatever you're wiping with, you're washing your hands after the fact, and you're sort of, you're not. There's not a substantial disease risk there.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't think so. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Dan Diener, because I think early on we tried to crowdsource ideas, and he had this exact issue where he explained you wouldn't wipe something like this off your hand with just dry paper. You really need to do something better. So. The Wipe Gel Kickstarter only has 6 days left, and they only need to raise another $1,900. So if everyone listening wants to chip in, we could help them out a little bit.
Is it kind of like shave gel? I mean, I guess the premise kind of translates, right? Like having shaving cream sort of simplifies and improves
right.
What the razor is capable of doing.
You wouldn't dry shave your face, so don't dry shave your ass. Or something like that.
Yeah, don't dry wipe your ass.
There you go. So the next one is the Brondell Swash. And I really included this one. There were many, but this is just one of those attachable bidets.
It sounds fancy.
Yeah, the Brondell Swash.
Actually, a lot of people from my work used to have all kinds of different like bidet setups. So there was like this Arab guy so there's like 3 tiers of bidets that I've seen so far. One is like just a regular old watering can, right? That's what you do if you're broke like me. If you got a little bit, mid-tier money, you can get like a little like mechanical hose, that sits on your toilet, and it extends and sprays water in the right area. No hand contact at all. It's a really nice
Sometimes
step up.
I wish you could be inside Jason and my head while you're trying to describe some of these. Like, there's a mechanical hose, and I'm like, what?
Oh, that's not even in the. So I grew up Muslim.
I'm just waiting for him to get to the fire hose attachment. He's gone from watering can to gentle hose. So
tier 3 is sitting on a fire hydrant.
Well. Tier 3 is this Taiwanese guy. He had it. It was like it's like this $200 like thing that you put on top of your toilet, so it like has all the features of one of those Japanese super toilets. So it's like a little thing you put on top, and it's got like a mechanical hose. It's got like air dry, all the different settings and whatnot. That's the third tier. And yeah.
So this is just sort of, I think, one of the fancier ones. It does kind of hook up to the plumbing of your toilet, and it's got, you can control the water temperature. It's got heated seats. It just seems like a pretty good attachment. The video, again, very gross. They make the same argument about you needing to use water. The guy dips his hand in nacho cheese and then just smears it around with a napkin to try and sort of create an image, I guess.
You guys want some Taco Bell right now? Or
yeah. It's like, now for our advertiser, Taco Bell. And they were successful, actually. They raised over $160,000. So...
do you remember how much each individual unit was?
I think these were in like the $100 to $200 range, so
that's not bad. That's not bad.
And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, we've alluded to it multiple times, is we need to talk about Japan, because there's actually a Wikipedia page called Toilets in Japan.
Oh yeah, they're killing it. They're killing the toilet game.
They're all about it. It's strange because, like Rameez said, they've kind of got two types. They have like hole in the ground squat over it, and then they have like top of the line like NASA level toilet.
They're not doing the in between like American Western style toilet at all.
Not at all.
0 or 100,
The primary feature of these is the bidet feature. It sprays warm water to clean the afflicted regions, and they get fancier.
Afflicted
and fancier.
by what? Just for clarification.
Nacho cheese, as is the case here. They've got temperature controls. The nozzle position can often be manually adjusted forward or aft. And I was reading this, and I'm like, "Is this a sailboat?" I got to know like what my port side is when I'm using this toilet. Like where is it gonna spray me? These are really common. Apparently, 74% of Japanese households have toilets with. It says of the high tech persuasion.
Well, and it's not just in Japan. So I mean, again, one of my at the place I used to work, one of my coworkers, he literally just replaced. A Japanese guy replaced all his toilets with like super,
Yeah, I think the company Toto is one of the major manufacturers of these. If anyone wants to look them up, and again, just so many features. I think the last one I want to touch on is some play music to relax the user's sphincter. Jason, Jason, will you please play the music?
Oh, sure, yeah.
I have to like actively clench right now. I'm about to.
Right. Did anyone have an accident?
Was that actually one of the songs that it could play?
That is straight from the Wikipedia article. That is one of the songs that they include in the toilet. I'll call it the toilet suite.
Well, and isn't there also a thing about like a thing about like modesty and like Japanese women or whatever? They want to play some music to hide the sounds or whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, some of them play running water sounds to increase privacy. That was also a feat I saw.
Yeah.
But that was Opus 62, number 6 by Felix Mendelssohn. in case you were just surprised at how much it affected your sphincter.
Do you think like the first time they like played this in concert,
there were a lot of accidents in the audience. I'm waiting for the Spotify playlist, sphincter relaxation.
Yes. Oh, I would subscribe.
All right, so I think you should head that up, Jesse. All right. I wanted to mention in the Wikipedia article regarding high-tech toilets, they mentioned a lot of things that you mentioned. They also mentioned some medical monitoring features such as urine and stool analysis and the checking of blood pressure, temperature, and blood sugar.
I like it.
Also automated lids, deodorizing fans, automated replacement of paper toilet seat covers, interactive urinals that have like video games built into them. The toilet, T-O-Y-let, produced by Sega, has pressure sensors to detect the flow of urine and translates that into on-screen action.
Ooh.
So yeah, there's a lot of technology out there already, and that was intimidating for me in terms of coming up with my own idea. Did you guys have a similar experience?
Yeah, I kind of felt like once I read about the Japanese toilets, I was like, all right, that's a wrap.
Yeah, literally,
we're done here.
Toilets are a solid problem. Sure. I mean, what you get the think about it. You know, you get the water and the drying automatically. You don't have to like touch anything down there. It just it's a beautiful system. I mean, what a world, you know.
Rameez is like, I can go back to watering my plants now.
and you know, you get a squatty potty in there to correct the anal rectal angle, and you got everything sorted out.
You're good to go. Yeah.
Sure. All right. So let's get to That Just Might Work, the part of the podcast where we share our own invention ideas. I'm sort of afraid to do this, but I'm thinking we start with Rameez here.
Okay. All right. So
what have you come up with?
I guess, you know, just like I was saying earlier, I really do think that toilets have been solved. If anything, I'd say, like, as far as the Japanese super toilets, sometimes they're a little, like, intimidating with the amount of features. Like, you know, there's like a thing there, there's like different knobs for and all these sorts of like buttons, and it's a bit much, you know. Really, you just need the water, the drying, and the squatting. And, you know, you're good to go. I mean, I don't think you can really do much more there. I mean...
You got yourself a slogan right there. The water, the drying, and the squatting.
All right.
Yeah.
So you just think it's solved?
I mean, I really... have you guys used these toilets?
I haven't. No, I really haven't.
I'm telling you, once you walk out of one of those, go to Japan. You know, specifically like go on like a toilet tour, right? Take them all out. You're gonna find that you're gonna have a great experience every time. You're gonna be like, damn, why don't we? I'm gonna set up
like a GoFundMe, and hopefully our listeners can contribute to send me to Japan just to like take a shit there. It's for research, though.
If you need to know the Japanese word for toilet, it's toire.
Toire.
Yeah.
All right.
You're covered. And so I like that, Jesse's Toilet Tour, and then the name of the GoFundMe will just be send Jesse to take a shit in Japan.
I feel like that would raise money. I don't know.
Might be worth a shot. All right. I'll go with my idea because I feel like Rameez kind of touched upon my philosophy. That is, Japanese super toilets sound amazing, but I think maybe they're overcomplicating it a little bit, which is unlike me to say. But I also think you just need to hit on the basics for
what are your basics?
Sanitary, comfortable shitting, we'll say.
Yes.
So mine is called. It's called the Garter Throne, and that's a throwback to the
Garter Robe.
The Garter Robe of post-classical times. For no reason other than I couldn't think of a name, so I'm just being historical with it. Here's the thing: you don't have to touch this toilet ever.
Perfect.
You have to touch it with your ass, but you don't have to touch it with your...
I was about to ask if it was like a hover toilet.
You don't have to touch it with your hands, okay? So sanitation is top notch in this device. It is self-cleaning. You know, like your oven has a self-cleaning cycle. Why can't the toilet be self-cleaning, right?
True.
It should work the same way too. It just seals off and gets 1,000 degrees.
Really hot.
I mean, that's one way to do it, to be honest.
Coincidentally, you can also bake bread in this toilet.
So it's self-flushing. You know, we have like sensors in public restrooms. Why don't we have those in our homes? It's just, I don't know. It's something that was interesting to me.
Yeah.
You know, that technology is a little more sanitary. You're not touching the flusher. So
it's
gonna be self-flushing. Sensors are also going to enable a number of other functions, such as raising or lowering the seat based upon facial recognition. So it's going to know who's coming up to the toilet, and based upon the way you approach it, it's going to know whether or not you need to sit down or you need to pee standing up.
I can't wait till all my Facebook friends can see what my like ideal pooping height is.
Yeah. Like, Rameez was on the toilet for 29 minutes. Oh, God.
I didn't say social integration. I said facial recognition.
We just assumed that was coming.
They're going to want it. They're going to want that data.
So I guess I should jump to this note. It's going to have urine analysis with integration with with my Fitness Pal.
Oh,
the fitness app. It's very popular nowadays, which tracks your how much water you consume over the day. So this is going to be able to tell you exactly how hydrated you are and how much water you need to consume based upon urine analysis when you pee.
I like it.
It's going to be just a couple of little add-ons to, picture sort of like the standard Western toilet here. It's going to have pressurized water that's going to be blowing at higher pressures, and use less water. It's not going to have to use 3 gallons of water. It's going to use 1 gallon at a higher pressure, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Heated seats, that seems like a no-brainer. They should all have those. Here was my thought. I was trying to think in terms of masking noises, right? That's a concern for a lot of people.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it's embarrassing if you sit down on the toilet and it's quiet out. If you're having a dinner party and then everyone hears what you're doing in there.
Everyone hears Felix Mendelssohn playing in the bathroom.
Exactly. I just had to play it.
It almost, sorry for going there, but it almost reminds me of, do you guys remember Two Girls, One Cup? The intro music? that like soft piano music? You guys remember what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I don't specifically remember the music.
Of the things I remember from that video, the music is not one of them.
Rameez is like, the music and the cinematography were really top notch.
well, actually, one of my buddies in high school got in trouble because he made a video called two guys, one guy, 2 Pop-Tarts. And it was like a slow-mo video on the morning announcements of like a guy eating 2 Pop-Tarts, and like they played the music. And
that's funny.
They got in trouble because the broadcasting teacher was like, "You guys think I don't know what that fucking music's from?"
Oh, he knows.
Anyway, so I thought of ways to to cancel out the noise, and I started thinking, what about like noise canceling headphones? Don't they sort of monitor ambient noises around you and then cancel it out with like matching frequencies? Or there's technology.
Yeah.
So I want noise canceling technology built into the bowl of the toilet.
Wow.
I would love to hear what the noise canceling sound of the toilet sounds like just by itself. Like the anti-poop sound. You know?
Exactly. It'd be like the reverse frequency of a poop sound.
That could be a sync sound for the next episode.
Yeah. Deconstructive interference. 3, 2.
It's going to have this little add-on. I have a septic tank in my house, actually, so there's no real concrete way to know when your septic tank is full until, like, maybe you have a problem with your toilet. Why not have a digital display? Like, hey, your septic tank is 30% full.
It'd be so easy to do. Just put a little dipstick in. You know what I mean? Like a little electronic dipstick. Yeah?
When you said digital display, I thought you meant like a camera, and I was like, I don't think that's a good idea. Just like a little dash cam down there,
I do want, this already exists, I'm sure. I want odor control fans. Why do we turn the fan on in the bathroom and it's on the ceiling? Let's attack the smell at the source.
Right.
Let's suck the air into the toilet. Also integrated Febreze sprayers.
I like that.
The last thing, and this is what makes my toilet particularly unique, I feel, is molded seats for optimal comfort. So, so each member of your family is going to have a personal molded, a mold that they put on their ass for this toilet.
You think when the robots take over, that robot is going to be the most pissed, the one that has to adjust the toilet contours,
the butt molding robot. Yeah,
it's a living.
So this has a couple of benefits. Optimal comfort. Obviously, it's going to be molded to your ass. There's also no ass-to-ass touching of the same surfaces.
How's that work?
Well, because, all right, so as you walk up to the toilet, facial recognition is going to recognize that it's Rameez coming to the toilet. It's going to pull out Jesse's tray and then quickly shoot out Rameez's tray. So he can sit down on
and then the squatty potty is going to come up from the floor, right?
Sure, yeah. If you want to add that, I didn't think. And yeah, that's pretty much it for my toilet. I think it's a very sanitary toilet because, like I said, you don't have to... in fact, I have a slogan. Self-cleaning, self-flushing, no touching. The garter throne.
Dude, you should really... You should just, like, you know, do these businesses full time. I mean, you're killing it here.
Right. At some point, we'll have to quit the podcast and just actually run all of these Kickstarters. It's going to be a lot.
It's going to be more than a full-time job. But yeah. So you know what you have is a toilet that is similar to the existing toilet. I didn't overcomplicate it. Maybe I did a little bit, but you know, it's very sanitary. There's no surfaces that you touch that anyone else has touched. So I think that's kind of a unique premise for my toilet.
That is nice. My idea is I kind of chose one of my issues, and that was largely the lack of entertainment. And I decided to roll with that. So I don't know if you've ever seen the virtual reality chairs that they have that they have like pneumatics in them. And so if you're playing like a racing game, the chair moves like sort of in motion with your car in the racing game.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. Mine is that, but with a toilet in the bottom of it.
So which like vehicle is emulated by like toilet using motion?
Well, it's not. I mean, that's the beauty is it's really customizable. So you're going to sit down and a headset is going to come down, Oculus Rift, Oculus shit. And you're going to put it over your eyes and you're going to be transported to, if you want it to be a racing game, it can be a racing game. I was thinking, let's say you're particularly constipated, it could be like a roller coaster simulator and you could metaphorically shit your pants at the scariest drops of the roller coaster.
If you're dangerously constipated, then this happens.
All of a sudden, you're transported back to 14th century France. So I mean, honestly, that's the gist of it. The idea being it's really an entertainment center that you're able to excrete in as well. And I had to come up with a name, and I took an influence from some rap artists, and mine is called Watch the Throne. Comma after watch, because the experience is all about virtual reality, but Rameez is excited about that. But it's like Chance the rapper, it's a reference to Jay-Z and Kanye's Watch the Throne. Mm-hmm. And I think this is going to get a little bit weird, but I think I might include an optional mouthwash feature. Because one usage of the toilet we did not talk about is vomiting. And
good point.
If you already have nozzles that are coming out and spraying you in the rear, I think there should be a mouthwash option for that. So that, if you are sick for whatever reason.
It would seem that there'd be some risk that you'd get sprayed by the wrong sprayer.
That is true. But I mean, think about both those scenarios. In one case, you get water in the mouth. In the other case, you get mouthwash on the rear. But I don't know. Nothing wrong with being minty fresh. On either end, I suppose.
All right, I have one question. What about splashing? I mean, if your toilet is like jerking left and right because you're in the Indy 500, what's happening to the water that's, as you... as the thing is turning left and right?
I think I may take advice from the airlines and use vacuum toilet technology.
Is that something you just came up with right now? Because
what are you talking about?
you hadn't considered water moving around?
Yes, that is true.
So yours is a dry toilet, is what you're trying to say,
right? Watch the Throne.
All right, a couple of good ideas there. It's time that we get to our favorite long-standing game of the podcast for 11 episodes. Has someone died using it? Toilet edition. It's going to be Jesse's turn to take a guess here. Rameez is going to be on Jesse's team. The score, Jesse, versus Jason, currently lies at 2-2. So you can take a lead here. You're going to have to guess. Has someone died, and how did it happen for the second half of the point?
Oh, man, I feel like I'm going to have a lot of clarifying questions because I know for a fact that a lot of people do die on the toilet, but I don't know if that's really the fault of the toilet.
No, it's not.
All right. Rameez, do you have any thoughts?
Okay, I think this is like a myth, but isn't there like a whole thing with like on like airplanes, you know, you inject the waste and it like hits and kills somebody or something like that?
Oh, like falling out of the plane?
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Is that the toilet or is that the fecal matter?
Yeah, I guess that's true. I mean, well, it seems like a design flaw at some point that has something to do. Maybe a little too distant to count.
What about if someone sat on a ceramic toilet and it broke? And split ceramic can be quite sharp. I could see that causing some lethal damage.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to go ahead and say, yes, someone has died by toilet. It's just too common of an object for it not to have happened.
Yeah, it seems inevitable, right?
Yeah. How? Could someone have drowned? Would that count?
Oh, that's a good one. Hey, we were talking about throwing up, right? So...
Right, if you were using my mouthwash thing and it sort of waterboarded you a little too long. Could that be a problem?
I would say that drowning in the toilet would be considered the toilet causing the drowning.
Right, yeah. I'm going to stick with my first guess, though, and say that someone was like mortally wounded by a broken toilet.
Okay. I will let you know whether or not you were correct. Of course, I'd like to go over some numbers and some statistics here beforehand. You're right. A lot of people are injured by toilets annually. Just take a random guess how many people on an average year, say 1996, were injured by toilets in the United States.
I'm going to say like 15,000.
Yeah, I was going to say 12,000 maybe.
Somewhere.
All right. 1996, toilets injured 43,000 Americans.
Holy shit!
Quite literally, yeah.
That's from an article on care2.com. You're more likely to be injured by a toilet than a shark. Sharks only injured 13 people in 1996.
Wow.
In fact, there's actually a Wikipedia page dedicated to toilet-related injuries and toilet-related deaths.
Oh.
So you've earned a half a point. I'll give you that thus far.
Taking the lead.
We need to break this down. We need to break this down. Accidental injuries. And just to give you an idea of what we're about to get into here, the first sentence of the Wikipedia page is, infants and toddlers have fallen into toilets and drowned.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, so
that's hardcore.
Well, let's get the children death out of the way.
Yeah, that's it. Well, that may not be it, but that's the bulk of it right there. So drowning would have been that would have been a full point actually. But you didn't say drowning, unfortunately. I read that I flinched when I read this. Are you ready?
Yep.
Young boys may experience a genital injury if the toilet seat falls down while they are standing at a toilet. Oh.
Wow.
Are you following?
Like a snapping turtle. Kind of.
Injuries to adults include bruised buttocks, tailbones, dislocated hips from unsuspectingly sitting on the toilet rim because the seat is up or loose. Injuries can also be caused by pinching due to splits in plastic seats or splinters from wooden seats, or if the toilet itself collapses under the weight of the user.
Wooden seats? Is this? I've never seen that.
In an outhouse, for example. In the year 2000, the Nobel Prize in Public Health was awarded to 3 physicians from the Glasgow Western Infirmary for a 1993 case report on wounds sustained to the buttocks due to collapsing toilets.
That was the Nobel Prize?
Yeah, in public health.
Wow.
Toilet-related injuries are surprisingly common, as I mentioned, ranging up to 40,000 injuries in the U.S. every year. In the past, this number would have been much higher due to the material from which toilet paper was made.
This lead or something like that?
You have no idea.
Asbestos?
No.
If you or someone you know has mesothelioma of the ass.
It's just wiping with roof shingles.
Asbestos.
Oh.
More like ass worstus, am I right? This was shown in a 1935 Northern Tissue advertisement, which depicted splinter-free toilet paper.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
More flinching. Injuries by...
That's why we were using water.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. There are also injuries caused by animals. All right. After I finish this, you're never going to want to sit on the toilet again. Some black widow spiders like to spin their web below the toilet seat because insects abound in and around it. Therefore, several persons have been bitten while using a toilet, particularly in outhouses.
Oh, God.
The dangers of spiders living beneath toilet seats, in fact, is the subject of Slim Newton's 1972 country hit, The Redback on the Toilet Seat.
a classic.
Snakes and rats have also been reported to have bitten persons sitting on the toilets.
I've heard of that.
Now we get into self-induced injuries. Some instances of toilet-related deaths, Jesse, you alluded at these, can be attributed to the drop in blood pressure due to the parasympathetic nervous system during bowel movements. It's further possible that people succumb on the toilet to chronic constipation. I read that if defecation is suppressed over long periods, problems can occur such as constipation or stool impaction, which can lead to death. Exploding toilets. In 2014, Sloan's FlushMate model, pressure-assisted flushing system. By the way, this technology non-existent in my pressure-assisted flushing system.
Oh, sure.
It used compressed air to force waste down the drain. It was recalled after the company received reports of the air tank failing under pressure and shattering the porcelain. Now some historical toilet deaths. Godfrey the Hunchback, Duke of Lower Lorraine, in the Netherlands and Belgium regions, was murdered in 1069 when staying in the Dutch city of Vlaardingen. I'm not saying that right. Supposedly, the assassin made sure which of the latrines, which were built and drained on the outer side of the wall, according to medieval building style, belonged to the Duke's sleeping room, and he took position underneath it. Some sources say that a sword was used for assassination. Others mentioned a sharp iron weapon, which could have been a sword, also a spear or a dagger, after he was stabbed in the bottom, and it took him several days to die.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
And my favorite toilet death story, in 1945, the German submarine U-1206 was sunk after a toilet malfunctioned, resulting in seawater flooding into the hull, which when coming in contact with a battery created chlorine gas.
Oh, my God.
Forcing the submarine to resurface. And at the surface, it was discovered and then sunk by Allied forces.
Wow. I feel like I could have almost said anything, and like people would have died using it.
Yeah. A lot of people died by toilet. The answer I was looking for, however, did relate to exploding toilets. In November of 2014, in India, a 10-year-old boy was killed when buildup of methane gas inside of a poorly ventilated public toilet he was about to use ignited upon his entry, turning the heavy porcelain lid from the toilet water tank into a lethal missile.
Oh, my God.
He later succumbed to his injuries in the hospital some hours later. So,
the toilet lid is now in a museum in India. No, I'm kidding. That's just the suitcase. That's got its own museum.
No, this one did not. If only he had been a famous silent film actor, right?
Yeah.
So half a point.
I'll take it. I'll take what I can get.
The final, not final score, current score 2.5 to 2, and has someone died using it. I just couldn't believe it when I was reading through all the ways that people are injured and falling off of and falling into, and just being wounded by their toilets.
Yeah, be careful, everyone.
I think, if you're taking a lesson away from this episode, it's, be careful of your toilet. So, Not to bring it down with that, but with that, that's going to conclude today's episode of That Just Might Work. Rameez, thanks for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
And do you have anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah. So basically, recently I quit my job to work on a video game. So it's basically a game about a young woman who's been having a hard time. So she goes to a therapist and she initiates hypnosis. So the game is exploring the memories of her childhood and kind of figuring out what's led to her current problems. So, we follow her through the hypnosis. You can follow the game's progress at gestergames.com. That's GESTRA games.com. You can also follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Gester Games. You can cut that down to whatever you need.
No, that was good.
No, yeah, sounded good. That sounds really interesting.
Are we gonna get like a pre-release trial version?
Dude, I'll hook you up with a pre-release.
Or maybe a promo code for That Just Might Work listeners or something of that sort.
All right, I'll let you know. About that closer to the release date, which is probably about August, but I'm hoping to be able to release it earlier. August is kind of a worst case scenario date, so I'm basically just saying summer 2018.
Oh, cool.
All right, sounds good. Rameez, thanks again. And as for our social media, don't forget you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at That Just Might Work, on Twitter at TJMW Podcast. Rameez, are you following Tyler Womack?
I actually was considering it, but I decided not. For your sake, just because
you didn't want to like start a new video game and get in legal trouble right away.
He doesn't want to be an accomplice to this weird stalking thing,
right?
that we have going on.
Sorry, Tyler.
At TJMW on Twitter. And that's going to conclude it for today's episode of That Just Might Work. Make sure you join us next week. You never know, we might be talking about your favorite everyday item.
Take a fiber supplement.
Is that what was in your pill bottle?